Dwayne and Shaw's Midnight Drive. By I.A.R. Chapter 1. It was an early Friday morning in June. The sky was a clear, rich blue, and there were no clouds. Flowers were blooming everywhere, and the birds sang sweetly as they flew from tree to tree throughout the neighborhood. The paperboy was out riding his bicycle, delivering newspapers to people's houses. Dwayne LaFontant and Shaw were both in their bathrobes and bedroom slippers, watching television in the living room as they sat on the couch, drinking their coffee. "I'll go fetch the newspaper," said the former. "Sounds good," replied the latter, sipping on his cup of coffee. Dwayne got up off the couch for a brief moment and started toward the foyer. He opened the front door to the house, stepped outside onto the front porch, and bent down to grab the newspaper with his left hand, as he was carrying his cup of coffee in his right hand. Dwayne tucked the newspaper under his right arm, then smiled as he smelled the cool, damp air. "I just love Fridays," he said. He pushed his glasses up on his nose. His nose twitched. "I wonder what Shaw and I should get into today as far as fun," Dwayne asked himself. "I'm pretty sure we'll think of something." Dwayne turned himself around and stepped back into the house, closing the front door behind him with his right foot. He approached the kitchen and put his coffee down onto the kitchen counter along with the newspaper. "Shaw," Dwayne called out from the kitchen. "Yeah," Shaw responded from the living room. Dwayne stepped into the walk-in pantry and reached for the box of I.A.R flavored Pop-Tarts. He then took the gallon of pulp-free orange juice out from the pantry's refrigerator. Just as he exited the pantry, Dwayne said to Shaw, "You up for breakfast?" Shaw picked himself up and turned around to face Dwayne, who was still standing right there in the kitchen, carrying the I.A.R Pop-Tarts and orange juice. "Breakfast?" Shaw replied. He sipped his coffee and swallowed it. "You bet. I'm with you, bro," Dwayne agreed. Shaw started toward the dining room. He stopped as soon as he was right next to the dinner table. He pulled out a dining room chair and sat down in it. As soon as he felt comfortable, Shaw scooted himself closer to the table. He took the last 4 sips of his coffee and set the cup aside. In the kitchen, Dwayne inserted 4 I.A.R Pop-Tarts into the toaster, 2 for himself, 2 for Shaw. He pulled the handle down and prepared breakfast for both himself and his younger brother. It wasn't very long before Dwayne edged toward the cupboard and took out 2 empty cups. He set them down onto the kitchen counter right next to his coffee and the newspaper. Taking the orange juice, Dwayne poured himself a cup of it to drink with his breakfast. When the glass was half full, he then poured Shaw his very own cup of orange juice. Dwayne glanced at the toaster and smiled. He knew exactly when the Pop-Tarts would be ready. He looked at Shaw sitting by himself at the table in the dining room. "Breakfast is almost ready, Shaw," Dwayne called out from the kitchen. "That's good to know," Shaw responded from the dining room. "But now we have to cook up a little spell," Dwayne said with a grin on his face as he winked at Shaw toward the end of his sentence. Shaw's eyes widened. "A little spell, he said enthusiastically. "Yeah, you know," Dwayne replied seductively. "Are you ready?" Shaw got excited. He nodded as he leaned forward a little bit. "All right," Dwayne clucked. "First, to make the magic begin, you wiggle your nose." Shaw played along and wiggled his nose. "And tickle your chin," Dwayne added. Shaw tickled his chin. "Now you close your eyes," Dwayne continued. Shaw closed his eyes. "And cross your heart," said Dwayne, reaching his climax. With his eyes still closed, Shaw crossed his heart. The Pop-Tart suddenly emerged out of the toaster. Breakfast was ready. Then presto, breakfast a la carte, Dwayne concluded. "Nice," said Shaw, satisfied with his older brother's magic trick. "Breakfast is served." "I believe it is, buddy," Dwayne agreed. Chapter 2. Shaw watched Dwayne as the latter gathered up everything to bring into the dining room. He set 2 Pop-Tarts onto a saucer for himself, and the other 2 Pop-Tarts onto another saucer for his brother. Dwayne took the last 2 sips of his coffee and tossed the now empty cup into the kitchen sink. He grabbed the newspaper and tucked it under his right arm again, then gathered up the Pop-Tarts and cups of orange juice, and started toward the dining room. As soon as he was right next to the dinner table, Dwayne put the Pop-Tarts down, along with the cups of orange juice. He pulled out the dining room chair right next to where Shaw was sitting and sat down in it. As soon as he felt comfortable, Dwayne scooted himself closer to the table. He took the newspaper out from under his right arm and temporarily set it aside. Shaw had already placed one of the 2 saucers of Pop-Tarts in front of himself, along with one of the 2 cups of orange juice. He was nice enough to hand his brother the other saucer of Pop-Tarts, as well as the other cup of orange juice. "Thanks, man," Dwayne said enthusiastically as he placed the saucer and orange juice in front of himself. He reached out and gave his brother a pat on the back. "No problem, buddy," said Shaw, winking. "Now, let's chow." Dwayne and Shaw each took a bite of a Pop-Tart. As they did, the former began to read the newspaper. The latter finished chewing, then took a sip of his orange juice after swallowing. Shaw burped. "Excuse me," he said, chuckling. "Better out than in, as Shrek always says, Shaw." Dwayne joked, playing along. The exterminator and the hunter both started laughing. It truly was a fun Friday for them. Dwayne kept reading the newspaper. He saw many interesting articles and a lot of different advertisements. One of the pages in the newspaper displayed a ton of vehicle advertisements, and there was this really big image of a 1995 Land Rover Range Rover. Dwayne's eyes widened as he got an idea from looking at the image in the newspaper. He took a bite of his second Pop-Tart. He had already finished the first, and a sip of his orange juice, then turned to Shaw. "Shaw, I just thought of something," said Dwayne. "Yes, Dwayne," Shaw responded. "What is it?" "I'm just now seeing this image of a 1995 Land Rover Range Rover," Dwayne mentioned as he pointed at the image in the newspaper. "Cool," Shaw said. "What about it?" "I just got an idea after seeing this image," Dwayne explained. "As I went to go fetch the newspaper a few minutes ago, I was wondering what you and I shall get into together today as far as fun." "I was thinking the same thing, man," said Shaw, raising his right eyebrow. "Go on." What do you say you and I get out for a while today? Dwayne suggested. In other words, I just thought it'd be nice for the two of us to go for a drive together. I'm not too sure if there's anywhere in particular that I want us to go to, so I was thinking you and I could both get in my truck and just hit the road. That sounds like a plan, Shaw said enthusiastically. Let's see where the day takes us. We'll call it a road trip. And who knows? If we're still going to be driving at 11 p.m. tonight, perhaps we could spend the night at a hotel or something. And let's hit the road today since it's Friday. I do like the sound of that idea, Dwayne agreed. Though, it's a shame our wives aren't here with us. If they weren't always so busy with work and going out of town on business trips a lot, they'd be here with us to join in on our Friday fun. I know, right? Said Shaw, reaching for the last of his second Pop-Tart. Not only would Gladys and Chantel be here with us to join in on our fun today, but they would also be here to spend the weekend with us. You're absolutely right, bro, Dwayne said, sipping on his orange juice. But hey, at least we're still going to have a ton of fun today. Maybe even tonight as well. Dwayne and Shaw finished their breakfast, then got up from the dinner table to go get dressed for the day. Chapter 3. Reaching the second floor, Dwayne and Shaw each entered their bedrooms, which were next door to each other. Once inside his bedroom, Dwayne went into his walk-in closet and stripped off his bathrobe and bedroom slippers. The only piece of clothing that he kept on in the process were his navy blue boxers with little white polka dots embroidered on them. Dwayne opened a box at the back of his closet and dragged out his favorite attire, his orange exterminator jumpsuit which had the Verminator badge sewn onto the left side of its chest, a white sleeveless tee, a black leather belt, and black combat boots. Once Dwayne got dressed, he stepped out of the closet and smiled. I'm ready for the day, he told himself, pushing his glasses up on his nose. Meanwhile, Shaw went into his walk-in closet and stripped off his bathrobe and bedroom slippers. He only kept on his red and white plaid boxers. Shaw scrambled through the coat hangers and dragged out his favorite attire, a red flannel jacket with an orange hunting vest, a brown leather belt with a golden belt buckle, green woodland camouflage pants, and brown combat boots. Once Shaw got dressed, he stepped out of the closet and smiled. Today's going to be a great day, he told himself, putting his hands on his hips. Dwayne and Shaw both exited their bedrooms and met up with each other in the upstairs foyer. Are you ready? The former asked. I'm ready as I'll ever be, replied the latter. Great. Dwayne said seductively. Let's go. I'm right behind you, Shaw said enthusiastically. The exterminator started to head back downstairs, and the hunter followed. Dwayne and Shaw stepped into the foyer and approached the console, where the former kept his car keys. There's my car keys, he said. Let's take them and get out of here. I know just what we can bring with us, Shaw said, seeming to get an idea. He edged toward the coat rack, which was located right next to the front door, standing tall with a bunch of umbrellas and other stuff stacked neatly underneath all the coats. Shaw pulled out his hunting rifle, along with Dwayne's electric cattle prod, which was plugged into a charger. Let's take our favorite weapons with us, Shaw suggested. You may never know what might happen during our road trip today. That sounds like an excellent idea, Dwayne agreed. They'll come in handy if we run into a problem. Dwayne took his cattle prod from Shaw and carried it in his right hand as he exited the house through the front door and started toward the driveway, where his white Verminator truck was parked not too far from the street. Behind it was Shaw's aquamarine pickup truck, which was also parked. Shaw showed up behind Dwayne, carrying his rifle in both of his hands. We're taking my truck for this road trip, said the latter. I believe we ought to, the former agreed. It's way cleaner and nicer, and a lot less rusty, unlike my truck over there. Yeah, Dwayne clucked. Let's get going. The exterminator and the hunter walked toward the back of the white truck and opened its rear doors, revealing a big, spacious area that was big enough to load up pretty much anything. Dwayne stepped inside and hung his cattle prod onto two metal racks behind the bench seating. He then stepped out and circled back toward the front of the truck, where he opened the car door, hopped in, and sat down in the driver's seat, closing the car door behind himself. Behind him, Shaw was hanging his rifle onto two other metal racks right below Dwayne's cattle prod. He closed the truck's rear doors and locked them. Unlike the way Dwayne got into the driver's seat, Shaw got into the passenger seat by climbing over the bench. Shaw fastened his seatbelt as soon as he sat down on the cushions, then said to his brother, "Step on it." "We're out of here," Dwayne agreed, fastening his seatbelt. He inserted the car keys into the ignition slot and fired up the truck. "Make it so, number one," said the exterminator, grinning at his brother. Playing along, Shaw grinned back and gave Dwayne a high five. The latter gently pressed his right foot down onto the gas pedal, causing the truck to slowly accelerate forward. As soon as they were out of the driveway, the exterminator increased the truck's speed and navigated himself and his brother to the main street. Dwayne and Shaw were well on their way. Chapter 4. It had been approximately 15 minutes since Dwayne and Shaw left the house. So far, so good. Things were going swimmingly for the exterminator and the hunter. "Okay," Shaw said with a blank look on his face as he glanced through the windshield. "It's been 15 minutes so far, and nothing interesting has happened yet." "I'll say," Dwayne agreed, keeping his eyes on the road. "It's quiet, isn't it?" "Too quiet," Shaw replied, nodding. He looked all around the vicinity and watched the beautiful outdoor scenery pass by as Dwayne was driving. "But hey, I'm still enjoying this, even if things do seem a little bit bland at the moment," Shaw told Dwayne, smiling. "Yeah, me, too," the latter responded, smiling back at his brother. "In fact, I've got just the right thing to break the silence. I personally guarantee that this will be the entertainment section of our journey today." Dwayne reached for the console and pressed a button that summoned a monitor above the truck's GPS. It folded open like a laptop and displayed a list of channels. "Fancy a bit of television, little brother?" asked Dwayne seductively. "With pleasure," Shaw responded enthusiastically. "I didn't know your truck had TV." "It certainly does, buddy," Dwayne assured, grinning widely. "But that's not all. Watch this." The exterminator then reached for a switch at the bottom of the console, with one side labeled manual, and the other side labeled auto. Shaw watched as Dwayne flipped the switch from manual to auto. The former's lower jaw dropped in amazement. "Is that what I think it is?" said the hunter. "You got it?" The exterminator responded as he winked at his brother and gave a thumbs up. Dwayne suddenly took his hands off the steering wheel and his right foot off the gas pedal. He moved the bench seat back a little and got comfortable, putting his hands behind his head. "Not only does my truck have TV, but it's also got autopilot as well," Dwayne told Shaw. At first, the latter was speechless. He glanced through the windshield and watched as Dwayne's truck steered itself to the left side of the road so it could pass by a pink sedan. Afterward, the truck then steered itself back to the right side of the road. Shaw couldn't believe that the truck was literally driving on its own. "I cannot believe it," he exclaimed in awe. "This is way too cool, Dwayne. We've got a TV to keep both of us entertained during our road trip, and your truck has autopilot so you can relax and watch TV with me instead of having to keep your eyes on the road." "Indeed, Shaw," Dwayne agreed. "This is mainly the reason why my truck has autopilot. Whenever I want to just relax and watch TV while driving, I activate the autopilot feature so the truck can drive on its own. That way, I won't get distracted while driving. Without the autopilot feature, I would be in risk of crashing my truck and getting into a nasty accident." "Oh, yeah," Shaw figured, putting his hands behind his head. "No question about it. Now, let's see what's on TV." The exterminator reached for two pairs of buttons between himself and the hunter. One of them had plus and minus signs. This controlled the volume of the TV. It was on 40 out of 100, which was fortunately loud enough for both guys to hear clearly. The other pair of buttons had up and down arrows. These buttons changed channels. Dwayne pressed the up arrow button which took him and Shaw to channel 1 on the TV. In a lime green digital font, the number 1 could be seen at the top right corner of the TV screen for a few seconds before disappearing instantly with no effect whatsoever. This always happened with a different number seen on the screen, regardless of which channel the TV in Dwayne's truck would be changed to. Looney Tunes happened to be on channel 1 that day. Dwayne and Shaw made it just in time to see the boys of the chorus scene from 1950's What's Up, Doc? Bugs Bunny was getting his big break in Broadway productions, singing in the 3 hit shows, Girl of the Golden Vest, Wearing of the Grin, and Rosie's Cheeks. Which show was he singing in at this very moment? It just so happened to be the second show, Wearing of the Grin. Bugs and the boys of the chorus themselves all walked onto the theater stage with canes in their hands, singing, "Oh, we are the boys of the chorus, we hope you like our show, we know you're rooting for us, but now we have to go." While Dwayne and Shaw do like Looney Tunes, they weren't really feeling up to watching it after all. They looked at the TV, then at each other. "Let's see what else we can find to watch," Dwayne suggested. "I do wonder if there are more cartoons on today." He pressed the up arrow button again, taking him and Shaw to channel 2. Family Guy was on. The episode that happened to be playing was Peter's Two Dads, the 10th episode in the show's 5th season. Dwayne and Shaw made it just in time to see possibly everyone's favorite part of the episode. Peter Griffin was sitting on the couch in the living room, holding a twin neck flask in his right hand and a lighter in his left hand. He ignited the lighter and held the tiny flame up to one of the tubes. Brian suddenly walked into the room with a blank, awkward expression on his face. "Peter, what are you doing?" he asked. "Crack," Peter clucked, keeping his eyes on the flask and lighter. Brian was so shocked that he shouted, "What the foo?" Before Dwayne and Shaw got the chance to hear the second half of that third word, Dwayne pressed the up arrow button yet again, taking him and Shaw to channel 3. Futurama was on. The episode that was playing was Space Pilot 3000, the pilot episode and series premiere of the show. Dwayne and Shaw made it just in time to see possibly the funniest scene in the episode. Philip J. Fry and Bender the robot were in the suicide booth together. The deadly machine aimed its weapons toward them, consisting of a chainsaw, a circular saw, a knife, a corkscrew, and a taser. "Bring it on, baby," Bender chanted. Fry got scared and let out a long, loud scream of fear. Dwayne switched the TV to channel 4. Ice Age was on. The current scene playing was the one where Manny, Sid, and Diego were trying to figure out how to get Roshan to stop crying. "Here, turn him toward me," Diego shouted. Roshan was gently placed down onto a flat boulder. "Where's the baby?" Diego asked playfully, covering his eyes as he initiated a game of peekaboo. He quickly pulled his paws away from his eyes and looked at Roshan, shouting, "There he is." Roshan stopped crying and looked up at Diego in confusion. "Where's the baby?" Diego repeated, covering his eyes again. Just like the first time, the Smilodon quickly pulled his paws away from his eyes and looked at Roshan. "There he is," he yelled, only louder and gruffer this time. This startled Roshan so much to the point where he started crying again. Dwayne switched the TV to channel 5. Mario Head Mania's YouTube video called Mario Head Collection was on. Mario's head was floating in a solid blue screen background. "Where is everybody?" he asked, looking around. Dwayne switched the TV to channel 6. The Lion King was on. Simba was happily singing Hakuna Matata with Timon and Pumbaa. The scene had just transitioned to him finally being depicted as a grown adult lion. "It's our problem-free philosophy." The lion, the meerkat, and the warthog all sang happily together. Before it showed them swinging from jungle vines into a lake, Dwayne switched the TV to channel 7. Spider-Man 2 was on. In slow motion, Peter Parker ran toward the edge of a building rooftop and jumped into the air. Thinking he got his superpowers back, he joyfully yelled, "I'm back." Twice. Just then, it turned out that Peter was sadly mistaken, as he started falling down through the alleyway, screaming along the way. Before it showed him grabbing a clothesline, Dwayne tried switching the TV to channel 8. But for some odd reason, it somehow returned to channel 5. The green number in the top right corner of the television screen was now aligned in the center, displaying a text. It said, "Somehow returned to channel 5. Come back," Mario said, looking at the camera. Changing the channel once again, The TV displayed a solid black screen with Ouija's bug-eyed head floating in the center and staring at the camera. The green number went back to the top right corner of the screen, now displaying a text that said, Ouija. Max Coverized 1998 hit song, running in the 90s, started playing. Dwayne and Shaw were both extremely freaked out by this. Holy freaking crap. The latter screamed, while the former let out a long, loud scream of fear. Make it stop. The exterminator yelled. Change the channel. The hunter yelled twice. I can't. Dwayne yelled twice, frantically pressing the up arrow button repeatedly. Shaw firmly grasped the TV by using both of his hands and tugged on it with all his strength, disconnecting it from the console and forcefully turning it off. He threw it in the rear of the truck, then looked at his brother. Maybe we don't need television after all, the hunter said, shaking his head. I think you're right, the exterminator agreed, moving the bench seat forward. He flipped the switch from auto back to manual, then took hold of the steering wheel, putting his right foot on the gas pedal at the same time. We'll take the TV to a repair shop later, Dwayne told his brother. Maybe they can fix it, and we won't have to see those cursed programs anymore. I certainly hope so, said Shaw, crossing his arms. Chapter 5. Dwayne and Shaw noticed they were now on Main Street. The traffic seemed pretty decent for your average Friday. Coming toward a traffic light, Dwayne set his right foot down on the brake pedal, slowly bringing his truck to a complete stop at the red light. While waiting for the light to turn green, some random punk dude pulled up next to Dwayne's truck in a red Ford Mustang convertible with the top open. He was playing La Cucaracha on the radio at high volume. Dwayne looked to the left and saw the dude. He looked awfully familiar. Noticing that the dude was smiling at him smugly, Dwayne rolled down his window. Hey, you. Yeah, you. The dude called out. Remember me? It's me, Samson, the guy who made fun of you for camping in a tent out in the snow that one time. It turned out the dude's name was Samson. Last winter, Dwayne and Shaw had went on a camping trip out in the snow, and Samson was a local camper who poked fun at Dwayne and Shaw for camping in a tent while he stayed in a log cabin. It looked like Samson was about to cause trouble for the exterminator and the hunter once again. Oh, my God, what are the chances? Dwayne said indignantly. What the heck do you want, Samson? Clucked Shaw, looking to the left and leaning forward to see what was going on. Well, I have to say that your white armored truck with the Vermtech logo painted on the side of it looks hilarious. Samson taunted. You know what, Mr. LaFontant? How about you and your brother go back to exterminating animals, because that's where you clearly belong. This annoyed Dwayne to no end. Oh, come on. How dare you? He snapped. How dare you make fun of me, my brother, and my truck? Stop it right now or I'll call the cops on you for harassing me. Samson laughed at Dwayne's reaction. It looks like Dwayne had his associate's degree from Vermtech stolen from him. The bully taunted. Dwayne didn't care for that at all. He let out a long, loud growl of frustration. That's it? He screamed. Do you want to go? Do you want to freaking go, you stupid, pathetic waste of oxygen? How about we have a little drag race down the street so that you can watch my truck smoke a heavy pack? Okay, let's do it. Samson shouted, accepting the challenge. I kind of doubt your crappy pest control truck is going to be able to beat my Mustang. While the traffic light was still red, the yellow light turned on underneath the red light. Samson revved up his Mustang, while Dwayne revved up his truck. Shaw clucked thrice, looking around. What's going on? What's happening? The traffic light turned green. The race began. Dwayne put the pedal to the metal and blasted off, causing Shaw to get flung backward. Whoa! He exclaimed. Samson was ahead of Dwayne and Shaw, but not by much. As they raced all around town, Samson fired random bombs behind himself. He apparently had a whole stash of bombs in the passenger seat of his car, and while he was keeping his eyes on the road, he took a bomb and threw it behind himself. Bombs away! He shouted. Oh, crap! Dwayne yelled, dodging each and every bomb as they landed on the street. Poor Shaw was so freaked out, he had no idea what to think. Suddenly, Samson threw a canister of crude oil behind himself. Crude oil! He cheered. The canister landed and shattered right in the middle of the street, leaving a big puddle of it everywhere. The wheels of Dwayne's truck picked up the oil, and the truck itself started to skid. There was definitely no point in stepping on the brake pedal, because Dwayne knew that the vehicle would go out of control even if he tried to come to a complete stop. Dwayne was closer and closer behind Samson. The front of the white armored truck bumped the back of the red Mustang twice. Samson noticed he only had one bomb left. Taking his hands off the steering wheel, he reached for a brick in the back seat of his car and placed it down onto the gas pedal. He then picked up the final bomb, turned to face Dwayne's truck, and tossed it forward. One more bomb. Samson cheered. Dwayne screamed as he hooked a hard right, dodging the final bomb just in time. Sayonara, suckers. Samson chanted, pointing at Dwayne's truck. However, he still wasn't paying attention to the road. The red Mustang drove itself off-road after missing a right turn, resulting in it crashing into a wide ditch. The impact flung Samson out of the vehicle, sending him tumbling into a small wooded area. Stunned from what just happened, Samson stared hard at his wrecked Mustang, which caught fire from the impact. I wonder if my insurance covers that. He asked himself, scratching his head. Maybe I should check my policy. It was unknown if whether or not Samson learned a lesson for bullying Dwayne and Shaw. Meanwhile, Dwayne and Shaw were still out of control. I can't stop. The former screamed. The latter noticed they were closing in on a McDonald's. Watch out for that incoming McDonald's. He screamed. Dwayne braked hard. The wheels of his truck were still a little bit oily, resulting in the vehicle skidding like crazy and ultimately crashing into the McDonald's. Good thing it was empty. The cashier was seen standing at the cash register. She had her arms crossed and a bored look on her face. Yep, just another day at McDonald's, she told herself as if these kinds of things have happened at this particular McDonald's before. We won. Shaw cheered. Dwayne looked indignantly at his brother. We didn't even do anything, he said. Chapter 6. Noticing that they crashed into the McDonald's building, Dwayne and Shaw stepped out of the truck, holding their favorite weapons in their hands. They were surprised to see that there wasn't even a single scratch on the vehicle. My truck must be tougher than I thought, said the former, putting his right hand on top of his head. You're telling me, big brother, replied the latter, satisfied from everything that had happened on their road trip so far. Well, now that we're at a McDonald's, what do you say we break for lunch? Dwayne looked at his watch. The time was 11:30 a.m. Let's do it, he agreed. I'm getting hungry. Besides, it's lunchtime anyway. The two men walked up toward the cash register. Greetings, said the cashier, who was still looking unhappy. Welcome to a crappy McDonald's that some guy and his weird pest control truck just crashed into. I would kindly appreciate it if you wouldn't make fun of my truck, please, Dwayne calmly told the cashier. Thank you. Okay, whatever, the cashier responded, rolling her eyes. Anyway, can I take your order? Yeah, I'll order a McCrispy chicken sandwich with no pickles, Dwayne told the cashier. I'll also order a large pack of French fries for my side, a large Dr. Pepper for my drink, and a regular-sized I.A.R McFlurry for dessert. The cashier turned to Shaw. Anything for you, sir? I'd like a quarter pounder with cheese, with just cheese and ketchup on the burger, Shaw requested. I'll also take a large order of French fries, a large Coca-Cola, and a large chocolate milkshake. All right, go find a seat while we prepare the food, the cashier told the men. Dwayne and Shaw found a nice booth for them to sit at together. This was a good idea, said the former as he took a seat. It certainly was, the latter responded, setting his rifle down onto the table. Shaw smiled as he took a seat. Cheeseburgers and chicken sandwiches are both the cornerstone of any nutritious lunch, he told his brother. Especially from McDonald's. I'm not going to lie, they sure do got some tasty burgers. Don't you think? I sure do, Dwayne replied as he set his cattle prod onto the table next to Shaw's rifle. Don't forget, they've also got tasty chicken sandwiches. Maybe the next time I'm in the mood for a chicken sandwich, we can head to Chick-fil-A. They've got much better service than McDonald's. They do, indeed, said Shaw. Just then, the cashier walked up to the booth, holding a tray of food in each hand. One tray contained Dwayne's lunch order, while the other tray contained Shaw's lunch order. Here you go, she said, gently placing the trays down onto the table. That'll be $36.25. Dwayne reached for his cattle prod and zapped the cashier. Ow! She shrieked, flashing the exterminator a dirty look. What was that for? Why'd you zap me? I've got my wallet with me, but I'm saving it for later, Dwayne explained. Right now, I'm too lazy to pay for lunch. So buzz off and leave us alone so my brother and I can eat our lunch in peace. Oh, my God, fine. The cashier snapped, stomping her left foot. Oh, and by the way, you're on fire, Shaw added, pointing his right index finger forward. Like, literally. The cashier looked at herself and saw that her clothes were smoking from getting shocked by Dwayne's cattle prod. Without saying another word, she dashed toward the women's restroom to fetch a bucket of water and extinguish the smoke, as well as the expectant fire. That was an ordeal, the exterminator groaned. Yeah, the hunter chirped. Now, let's chow. The two men began to eat a nice, peaceful meal together. Shaw took a bite of his burger. He hummed with satisfaction. This is a tasty burger. Just like Ronald McDonald used to make. Dwayne nodded in agreement as he chewed on his chicken sandwich. He pushed his glasses up on his nose, then took a sip of Dr. Pepper to wash his food down. You know, I'm glad we got lucky this time, Dwayne said after he swallowed his drink. I wasn't kidding about McDonald's having bad service. They often do, especially when it comes to ice cream. Whenever someone might ask for a milkshake, a McFlurry, or even a sundae, the employees at McDonald's will almost always claim that the ice cream machine is broken. Yeah, I remember reading about that somewhere online, Shaw replied after taking a sip of Coke. I have no idea as to why the McDonald's employees make that claim 90% of the time. Something's telling me the ice cream machine is never broken. Instead, it just needs cleaning. Yeah, it's like they're lazy, Dwayne suspected as he ate a couple of French fries. Whenever someone might want ice cream from McDonald's, the employees don't want to waste any time cleaning out the machine. So they lie to the customer and falsely claim it's broken. That's what I call laziness. I know, right? Said Shaw, reaching for French fries. Then again, it does sound pretty logical and reasonable if cleaning out the ice cream machine can take a while. But hey, at least the customer can still get a delicious cheeseburger or chicken sandwich. I can't usually get them because Beth is a vegetarian. But I do love the taste of a good burger. Shaw proceeded to finish the rest of his burger. Do you know what they call a quarter pounder with cheese in France? He asked his brother. A royale with cheese, Dwayne responded, chewing on his chicken sandwich. That's correct, Shaw continued, smacking his lips. Do you know why they call it that? Because of the metric system, Dwayne answered. Shaw smiled as he looked at his brother. Check out the big brain on Dwayne. He chanted. You're a smart sucker. That's right. The metric system. Dwayne and Shaw decided to finish their meal. As soon as they did, they each took the final remaining sips of their beverages. That hit the spot, said the latter, feeling satisfied with his lunch as he disposed of the now empty cup. Now it's time for dessert. Dwayne reached for his I.A.R McFlurry, while Shaw reached for his chocolate milkshake. They were glad to see that their desserts hadn't melted one bit. The hunter started sipping his shake so fast and so hard that he almost immediately got a brain freeze out of it. Ouch! He shrieked, face-palming. On the contrary, the exterminator took the time to enjoy his McFlurry. He used a plastic spoon to gently scoop the dessert and eat it slowly, savoring the deliciousness at the same time. Once both men finished their desserts, they grabbed their favorite weapons and started toward the exit. Shaw turned to Dwayne and pointed to his left ear. Hey, Dwayne, what's that behind your ear? The former asked quietly, almost sounding like a whisper. Before the latter could respond, Shaw reached his right hand out, snapped his fingers, and magically pulled his wallet out from behind Dwayne's left ear. Why, it's my wallet, Shaw said in astonishment. Dwayne was amazed. Well, would you look at that? He responded happily. What are you going to do with it? Remember how you didn't want to pay for lunch? Shaw reminded his brother. I'll take care of it. That's very generous of you, little brother, Dwayne said, smiling. Remember when I said I'm saving my wallet for later? I'll use it to pay for dinner tonight. Maybe we can find a roadside diner somewhere on the highway tonight. An excellent idea. Shaw replied, giving a thumbs up. I like the sound of that. Still fed up with the grumpy cashier's crude behavior, the exterminator and the hunter devised a plan to get revenge on her. We're going to get that little tramp back, Dwayne declared. She has the worst attitude I've ever seen. She has no people skills whatsoever, and she is an absolute Karen to go with it. Did you even read her name tag? Shaw mentioned. That's literally her name. It perfectly describes her. She's about to get what's coming to her. Just then, Karen walked out of the women's restroom. She was wiping her forehead with a wet paper towel. Ah, that's better, she told herself as she sighed a breath in relief. Karen walked up to Dwayne and Shaw, crossing her arms as she came to a stop. You still owe us $36.25 for your lunch today, gentlemen, she said. No problem, the hunter assured, pulling two $20 bills out from his wallet and handing them to Karen. But let me assure you, next time pests threaten your house, don't expect any help from us. Karen indignantly took the $40 from Shaw. Huh. I'm shaking, she replied sarcastically. All of a sudden, as Karen started toward the cash register, Shaw took his rifle and shot it straight up at the ceiling. There was a loud gunshot. Almost immediately, the ceiling started to crumble. Dwayne knew what was about to happen next, as his truck had already damaged the McDonald's building by crashing into it earlier. Let's go, big brother. Come on. Shaw yelled. The men quickly got back inside Dwayne's truck and drove away just in time as the building collapsed to smithereens. Karen rose out of the mountain of debris with a furious look on her face. That's it, she calmly and quietly said out loud. I quit. Meanwhile, Dwayne and Shaw were back on the street. They had fastened their seatbelts shortly after escaping from McDonald's. Man, that was a close call, said the former, looking into the side view mirror. You're telling me, the latter agreed, throwing his rifle in the rear of the truck, where the TV was still laying after it had been forcefully disconnected from the console earlier. It wasn't very long before Dwayne also threw his cattle prod in the rear of the truck. You know, if it hadn't been for Karen, we would have just committed dine and dash, Shaw pointed out. I'm pretty sure we would have gotten away with it, too. The hunter looked out the car window, then through the windshield. But the best part is that it's still a pleasant day today, he continued. It certainly is, bro, the exterminator agreed. He looked at his watch, the time was now 12:15 p.m. You and I are having such an exciting day today, and it's only a quarter after noon. Shaw gave his brother a high five. You know something, Dwayne? Said the hunter. I really enjoy spending quality time with you. It's 100 times better than being around that big, fat, brown-furred grizzly bear named Boog, along with his weirdo best friend Elliot the deer. Same here, Shaw, the exterminator responded. I also really enjoy spending quality time with you. It's over 100 times better than chasing after RJ the raccoon, Vern the turtle, Hammer the squirrel, Stella the skunk, and all those other wild animals who snuck into Gladys's house and stole her stuff. Dwayne and Shaw then exchanged stories about stuff they had recently experienced. You've got to admit, all of them can get pretty darn aggravating and annoying at times, Dwayne began. For me, one of the most annoying times I've socialized with those little suckers was fairly recently, when they all had that slumber party. Why? Because the bedtime stories they chose were Don't Let the Pigeon Drive the Bus and Don't Let the Pigeon Stay Up Late, which are both written and illustrated by Emma Williams. I will admit, they are pretty silly kid books if you ask me. I remember you told me about that back at the house this morning when we sat in the living room drinking our coffee together, Shaw explained. For me, one of the most annoying times I've socialized with Boog and Elliot was fairly recently, when I went shopping with them at Target. They just so happened to encounter Boog's childhood owner and my former rival, Ranger Beth. They were so happy to see each other to the point where they had a 45-minute-long heartfelt conversation. I swear it almost felt longer than that. It was just as annoying as those times whenever I'd wait for Beth to get off the phone. Yep, you told me about that last night when we ate dinner, Dwayne recalled. Man, that was bad, Shaw continued. Both my hard time with Boog and Elliot at Target, and your hard time with RJ and the gang at their slumber party. Of course, we cannot forget all the other hard times you and I have been through. Even though we probably both got what we deserved back in 2006, I'd say us villains deserve better. Don't you agree, Dwayne? Yeah, times have changed, Dwayne replied. 3 years ago, I would have been a hero. 3 years ago, they would have been 12, said Shaw, rolling his eyes. Is it just me, or do our unpleasant life experiences seem almost as bad as a baby's point of view whenever he or she gets a diaper change? Ugh, don't make us go there. Dwayne protested. Because after I finished reading The Cuckoo Clock of Doom, I guess you could say that I got a bit of inspiration from Michael Webster. When you just brought up the diaper change example, I don't like to think about what happened after that. I'd rather block it out of my memory. I'm sure you understand. I understand completely, Shaw understood. To be honest, I'm right there with you. A rather cheery look on Shaw's face could be seen as he changed his mood. But us spending quality time together always lifts our spirits, he explained. Right, bro. You got it, dude, Dwayne answered, winking. The former gave the latter another high five. A few seconds later, the hunter yawned. I need a nap, he softly announced. Dwayne, turn on the heat and NPR. The exterminator reached for the console and turned on the truck's heater, then the radio. He turned to Channel 18, which provided relaxing NPR podcasts. "We now return to NPR's Fresh Air," the radio host calmly announced. "My special guest today is a white music writer who has written a book about the history of hip-hop," Terry Gross said softly. Shaw started to doze off until he slowly fell asleep and drifted into his nap. "Shaw's loss," Dwayne told himself calmly and quietly. "I'm sure this'll be an enriching discussion." "Hip-hop has its roots in the call and response tradition of the Southern Black Baptist Church," Gross continued in her soft voice. Dwayne suddenly fell asleep as well, causing him to take his hands off the steering wheel. With his right foot still on the gas pedal, and without the autopilot turned on, the truck was aiming for a nasty accident just waiting to happen. It sped through a red light where a black Sprinter van collided into it. Luckily, Dwayne and Shaw were all right. They woke up from their short nap in the aftermath of the impact. Upon discovering the wrecked van next to them, the two men were once again surprised to see that the white pest control truck hadn't taken a single smidgen of damage. "Well, a nap was just what the doctor ordered," Shaw said proudly. "I feel like a new," his sentence was interrupted by Gross. "And, of course, you can't write a history of rap without mentioning Gil Scott-Heron," she continued. "Thanks, Terry," Dwayne smiled. Chapter 7. It had been 7 hours since Dwayne LaFontant and Shaw escaped from the crappy McDonald's. Before they knew it, they left the crowded city streets and were now on the outskirts of town. 2 hours earlier, the exterminator and the hunter had stopped by at a repair shop and managed to get the truck's television fixed and reattached to the console. They were both glad that it was no longer malfunctioning by changing channels on its own, and that none of its channels were showing cursed images of Mario and Luigi anymore. "Honestly, I don't know what's gotten into this television lately," said Dwayne. "But whatever was going on with it earlier today, it sure was an ordeal." "I know, Dwayne," replied Shaw. "And it sure did get the best of us, too. But hey, at least it's working properly again. That's all that matters." Dwayne looked down at the console and noticed that his truck was running low on fuel. He looked back up and saw a roadside diner in the distance, which was right next to a 7-11. He turned to his brother and said, "I'm getting kind of hungry. What do you say we pull over and get some dinner?" "Sure, let's do it," Shaw agreed. "I think my McDonald's already wore off 3 hours ago." "We need gas anyway," the exterminator added. "And possibly a bathroom break as well." Dwayne pulled over at the 7-11 and carefully parked his truck right next to a gasoline pump. He and his brother stepped out, taking their favorite weapons with them. The exterminator took care of inserting the dispenser into the fuel tank, then began the refueling process. "My truck's fuel tank capacity is 60 gallons, so this could take a while," Dwayne explained. "While we're waiting for her to refuel, let's get some food." "Good, I'm starving," Shaw responded. The two men walked next door to the diner. They were glad it was empty. There were no other patrons present. It was just Dwayne, Shaw, the diner's receptionist, and a couple of sexy young waitresses, one in her late 20s with blue eyes, blonde hair, and a black headband, another in her early 30s with green eyes, red hair, and purple prescription eyeglasses, both Caucasian and dressed in pink. Additionally, there were 3 gourmet chefs working in the kitchen. The diner was quite retro-themed. There was a black and white checkerboard floor, a jukebox which provided vintage music, neon lighting, a rotary wall telephone, paintings of old-fashioned cars, and everything else to give the diner a 1950s feel. Upon entering the establishment, Dwayne looked at the receptionist. "Table for 2 adults, no smoking," he requested. "Certainly," the sweet receptionist replied, nodding. "Go find a seat, and our waitresses shall be with you shortly." Before finding a table to seat themselves at, Dwayne and Shaw walked into the men's restroom and got rid of their lunch from McDonald's, which had completely worn off at that point. When that was over, the two men found a nice booth for them to sit at together. It was much nicer and much cleaner than the booths at McDonald's. Taking a seat, the exterminator and the hunter set their favorite weapons down onto the table. They had them in case of emergency. The red-headed waitress, whose name was Ursula, walked up to the booth with a coffee pot. "How would you two like a nice, hot cup of coffee?" she asked, pouring 2 cups for each of the men. "It's fresh and on the house." "Well, thank you," Dwayne responded, feeling flattered. "I think we could go for some ja." Ursula then took out a notepad and a pen. She was going to write down whatever Dwayne and Shaw would order for their meal. "My name is Ursula, me and Tiffany will both be your waitresses this evening," she gladly declared. "Tell me, what would you two like to eat for dinner tonight?" Turning to Dwayne, Ursula started off by taking the exterminator's dinner order. "I'd like an order of meatloaf served with one side of mashed potatoes and gravy, and another side of macaroni and cheese," Dwayne requested before taking a sip of his coffee. "I'll take a bottle of Budweiser for my drink, and a large chocolate milkshake for dessert." Ursula turned to Shaw. "What about you, sir? What's your dinner order?" "I'm going to eat exactly what my brother just ordered," Shaw declared right after he swallowed some coffee. "Except I want my second side to be buttered corn. I'd also like a Budweiser for my drink as well, and a large vanilla milkshake for dessert." "Sounds good," Ursula said, smiling. "Your food shall arrive real soon." She walked away and headed toward the kitchen so she could submit the men's dinner orders to the chefs. As Tiffany, the blonde-haired waitress, walked by Dwayne and Shaw, the hunter snapped his fingers to get her attention. "Excuse me, miss, but do you mind turning on the jukebox?" he politely requested. "Me and my brother would both like some ambient music provided to us as we dine. And put on something with a little octane." "Octane? You got it?" Tiffany happily responded. She walked up to the jukebox and turned on In the Mood by Glenn Miller. It was at this moment that Dwayne and Shaw knew they were getting pampered by this retro diner that they chose to eat dinner at. "These people are spoiling us," said Dwayne, blushing. He pushed his glasses up on his nose, then took another sip of coffee. "I especially adore Ursula. She seems like such a hottie." "You're telling me," replied Shaw, also blushing. He sipped his coffee, then looked at his brother. "I don't know about you, Bro, but I'm starting to adore Tiffany, even though we literally just met these two waitresses. Yeah, they do indeed seem very lovely, Dwayne continued. We better not tell our wives, though. They may think we're cheating on them. You said it, Shaw concurred. They'd flip if they knew about this. The two men clinked their coffee cups together, then took the final sips of coffee at the exact same time. It wasn't very long before Tiffany and Ursula walked up to the booth, each holding a tray of food in their hands. Dinner is served, the former proudly announced, gently setting Dwayne's tray down onto the table. You gentlemen enjoy, the latter put in after setting down Shaw's tray. The two waitresses walked away to let the exterminator and the hunter eat their dinner in peace. Just like lunchtime, the two men ate a nice, peaceful meal together. While In the Mood was playing on the jukebox, Dwayne and Shaw each took turns by eating a piece of meatloaf, then a bite of their sides, and a sip of their beverages. As they did so, they took turns telling each other the stories about all the huge adventures they've been on in their lives. Dwayne always enjoyed telling Shaw the story about his adventure which took place in Chesterton, Indiana, where he and his wife Gladys Sharp had attempted to stop RJ and his friends from crossing her lawn and stealing foodstuff from inside her house. As for Shaw, he always enjoyed telling Dwayne the stories about his own adventures which took place in Timberline, Colorado, where he always attempted to hunt down Boog the bear and Elliot the deer. He also enjoyed telling his brother the story about his wife Chantal Dubois going on an adventure which spanned from Europe all the way over to North America, where she pursued Alex the lion and his friends. Like I said this morning, it really is a pity our wives aren't here, Dwayne told Shaw as he stuffed a forkful of mashed potatoes in his mouth. I do wonder what Gladys and Chantal are doing right now. I guess they will be alright, said Shaw, reaching for his Budweiser bottle. I too wish that they could have tagged along with us on our road trip today. It's honestly been so enlightening thus far. Our wives really have no clue what they're missing out on. But hey, I'm sure you and I can go on another road trip like this sometime in the near future. Next time, we'll make sure our wives are with us so that they can tag along. You're absolutely right, bro, Dwayne said, sipping on his bottle of Budweiser. At least we're going to continue our fun as soon as we get out of here. He burped. Excuse me, he said, chuckling. Better out than in, as Shrek always says, Dwayne. Shaw joked, playing along. The two men started laughing. It truly was a fun-filled road trip for them. After dinner, Dwayne and Shaw turned to dessert. Their milkshakes were served to them in those fancy sundae glasses, and each one had a drinking straw for the two men to sip through. Just like at the crappy McDonald's, the exterminator and the hunter were so lucky that their dessert hadn't melted one bit. This time, they both took the time to slowly sip their milkshakes, savoring the sweet flavors at the same time. Neither one of them got a brain freeze. Finishing their dessert, Dwayne turned to Ursula, who was walking toward the booth with a checkbook in her left hand. Check, please, Dwayne politely requested. Absolutely, Ursula responded in agreement. She handed the exterminator the checkbook. Here you go. Dwayne took out his wallet and handled the check. Dinner was paid for. Grabbing their favorite weapons, Dwayne and Shaw stood up from the booth and started toward the exit. Have a good night, the sweet receptionist told them, blowing a kiss. Thank you. You, too. Shaw replied happily, waving. He and his big brother proceeded to walk out of the diner and head over toward 7-11 to pick up some drinks and snacks for themselves. There was nobody else there except for a cashier and some other punk dude. It seemed like he was shopping for a lot of beer. Dwayne grabbed a carton of Goldfish crackers, a box of Cheez-Its, and a 2-liter bottle of Minute Maid lemonade. Shaw grabbed a container of Lay's Stacks, a bag of Fritos, and a gallon of True Moo chocolate milk. After collecting their drinks and snacks for the road, the two men decided to check out at the cash register. Setting everything down, the cashier looked at them with a blank expression on his face and said, "It's $6.30. Shaw took out his wallet and gave the cashier a $5 bill, a $1 bill, and a quarter. It's $6.30, the cashier reminded. Yeah. No, I know, Shaw assured. The hunter reached for a small container of coins on the counter and took a nickel. Yeah, you're holding up the line, the cashier accused. Declining the nickel that Shaw had added to the stack of money, he said, no. You can leave a coin, but you can't take a coin. Excuse me. Shaw protested, crossing his arms. You can leave a coin at any time, but you have to spend $10 to take a coin, the cashier explained. It's store policy. Well, are you going to pay, or what? You're holding up my line. I don't have 5 cents, Shaw argued. You can't afford your snacks, just step aside, the jerky cashier taunted. What, your boss didn't give you a bigger salary today? Do you even hear yourself? Dwayne retorted. What do you mean we're holding up the line? There's only one other dude behind us. Just step aside, gentlemen, the jerky cashier scolded. Shaw indignantly took back the money he brought out of his wallet. Just as Dwayne LaFontant and Shaw thought they were about to leave empty-handed, the punk approached the cash register and set his beer down onto the counter. He knocked over a nearby shelf containing cigarette packs, matches, and lighters. Really? The cashier said loudly as he glared at the punk. Dwayne and Shaw got excited. They thought this was great. They stayed long enough to watch the rest of what was going on. This punk was apparently a burglar. As the cashier bent down in an attempt to clean up the mess that the burglar had just made, the latter opened the cash register from the other side of the counter and began to rob the 7-11. After stealing a few dollar bills, he snatched a plastic bag and loaded up Dwayne and Shaw's drinks and snacks. He even added 2 bottles of beer from the package he loaded onto the counter. You two seem like you've been through enough, said the burglar, handing Shaw the loot. We certainly have, Shaw responded proudly as he took the bag from the burglar. Thank you very much. Have a good night. You, too, the burglar happily replied. He proceeded to rob the cash register as the exterminator and the hunter gladly exited the building. When the burglar decided that he had stolen enough money, he snatched his beer and began to run away. The cashier stood back up only to discover money stolen from his precious cash register and nobody else in line. Yo, not cool, bro, he indignantly said to himself. He quickly dashed out of the establishment in an attempt to pursue the burglar, who was getting in his car and preparing to make off with stolen money and a package of beer. Hey, man, stop. The furious cashier yelled. Somebody stop that guy. He turned his attention toward Dwayne LaFontant and Shaw, who didn't care at all. They were feeling very pleased with themselves. Hey, gentlemen, little help. The cashier asked as he approached the exterminator and the hunter. The two men both smiled smugly as Shaw sarcastically shrugged. Not our policy, the hunter taunted, shaking his head back and forth as he remarked what the jerky cashier had said earlier. Dwayne took his cattle prod and zapped the second annoying cashier he and his younger brother had met that day. Shaw took his rifle and shot down the cashier's old, rusty car, which was parked in the parking lot. It blew up and caught fire. No. The cashier screamed in agony. Now what am I going to do? With his money stolen and his car destroyed, he fell to his knees and started wailing, bawling. This only added to Dwayne and Shaw's happiness. They each kissed their favorite weapons and continued to walk back to the truck. The men felt very happy. There's nothing like revenge. Upon returning to the truck, Dwayne looked at the gasoline pump, then at his watch. The time was exactly 8 p.m. on the dot. Wow, 45 minutes, and this thing is still not full. The exterminator said indignantly. Just then, the dispenser jerked. This indicated that the truck was 100% refueled. Never mind, said Dwayne, relieved. He removed the dispenser from his truck's fuel tank, then placed it back on the gasoline pump. The refueling process was complete. My truck doesn't usually take that long to refuel, Dwayne said to himself. It must be these gasoline pumps. I guess they're kind of slow. The exterminator and the hunter got back in the truck and fastened their seat belts. How lucky we are. Dwayne cheered. We ate a nice dinner at a roadside diner with fantastic service, we witnessed a robbery, and the burglar who committed it handed us our drinks and snacks for the road. And did you see what else he added to this plastic bag? Asked Shaw, bringing out the 2 bottles of beer. The brand just so happened to be Budweiser. 2 bottles of Budweiser. Shaw continued. Do you know what this means? More beer for us. Dwayne answered. Not only that, said Shaw. Are you thinking what I'm thinking? The exterminator's eyes widened as he started to figure out what the hunter had in mind. The former smiled as he pushed his glasses up on his nose. I know what you're thinking, he said. Let's have fun drinking and driving. Bingo. The latter chanted. Just what I was thinking. We're out of here, Dwayne agreed, inserting his car keys back into the ignition slot. He revved up the truck once again. Make it so, number 1, said the exterminator, taking a Budweiser from his brother, who had already cracked the bottles open. The hunter proceeded to take a sip of his refreshing, ice-cold beer. Dwayne did the same as he gently pressed his right foot down onto the gas pedal, causing the truck to slowly accelerate forward. As soon as the men escaped from the 7-11 with their loot which they managed to get for free with the help of a burglar, Dwayne increased the truck's speed and navigated himself and his brother back to the highway. Instead of turning around to go back home, the exterminator and the hunter decided to keep moving forward. It was at this point in their road trip that they began to search for a motel. Dwayne and Shaw were well on their way. Chapter 8. After leaving the 7-11, Dwayne and Shaw sipped their ice-cold beer slowly, enjoying the crisp taste as they eased into the smooth hum of the truck's engine. Feeling completely relaxed, Dwayne set the truck to autopilot, then turned on the car seat heaters. The smooth hum of the engine and the gentle sway of the truck made it easy to settle into. Dwayne hooked up his iPhone to the radio via Bluetooth, went to YouTube, and pulled up the 30-minute-long extended version of 3000 Cycles, I Missed You, from the Sinala soundtrack. He set the video to automatically loop after it ends. Once the beer bottles were empty, the exterminator and the hunter set them aside and reached for the snacks and beverages they had picked up earlier. Shaw grabbed the container of Lay's stacks, while Dwayne reached for the carton of goldfish crackers. They munched contentedly, while the quiet of the countryside stretched out around them. As Dwayne ate a handful of goldfish, he looked around to find the rest of the refreshments. He couldn't find them at first, until he looked up, seeming to remember something. Dwayne glanced at Shaw and smiled. He knew what his brother had in mind. The latter leaned closer and whispered mischievously, Hey, Dwayne, what's that behind your ear? In an instant, Shaw reached his right hand out, snapped his fingers, and magically pulled the box of Cheez-Its out from behind Dwayne's left ear. Dwayne chuckled, shaking his head in amazement. You little trickster, he said, ruffling Shaw's hair and giving him a pat on the head. That never gets old. Say, I think I feel something else in there. Well, then let me get it out for you, whispered Shaw, pulling his signature stunt again. This time, he brought out the bag of Fritos. How did you fit that behind your ear? The hunter asked playfully. There's more, the exterminator continued. Let's take a look, Shaw whispered twice. He brought out the 2-liter bottle of Minute Maid lemonade. You're forgetting something, Dwayne reminded in a sing-song voice. Grinning from ear to ear, Shaw reached out one more time and pulled the gallon of True Moo chocolate milk out from behind Dwayne's ear. There you go. Dwayne said happily. That's where the rest of the refreshments went. They were behind my left ear the whole time. You've got to admit, I'm a talented magician, Shaw gladly assured. I sure do know my magic tricks. I'm a professional at sleight of hand. Dwayne cracked open the bottle of lemonade, then poured it into 2 plastic tumbler cups. He handed one to Shaw so that each of them could enjoy a nice, tall glass of fizzy lemonade. This is the life, said Shaw, enjoying himself as he sipped his lemonade. Hakuna Matata. Dwayne and Shaw put on their over-the-ear headphones and connected them to the TV. Dwayne pulled up YouTube while keeping 3000 Cycles, I Missed You, playing on the radio. Together, they watched a series of ASMR videos while enjoying their lemonade. First came the classic What's That Behind Your Ear? ASMR, which immediately gave both brothers tingles. Then they followed with eye exams, ear exams with otoscopes, and in-video headphone tests, loud beeps, quiet beeps, high beeps, Low beeps, sometimes in the right ear, sometimes in the left, sometimes in both. It was reminiscent of the hearing tests from their childhoods, and the combination of soft-spoken narrators, precise beeps, and the smooth countryside drive was hypnotic. The full moon glowed overhead, casting pale white light across the open road. Stars sprinkled the night sky like glitter, while the dark cabin of the truck was lit only by the dim glow of the console, the GPS, and the faint shimmer of the TV. Wrapped in the cocoon of music, ASMR, and soft light, Dwayne and Shaw felt utterly at peace. The truck continued gliding effortlessly down the isolated highway. Both brothers had drifted into a deep, contented sleep, smiles lingering on their faces as the night carried them further into their road trip. 3 hours later, Dwayne and Shaw stirred awake. The clock read 11:15 p.m. The 3-hour-long nap had done wonders. The brothers stretched and rubbed the sleep from their eyes. The truck continued to glide smoothly down the deserted countryside highway on autopilot. The soft glow of the console and GPS illuminated the cabin, and 3,000 Cycles, I Missed You, still played on the radio, filling the night with its hypnotic instrumental tones. Feeling refreshed, the two men reached for the snacks they had brought from the 7-Eleven. Shaw grabbed the Cheez-Its, while Dwayne reached for the Fritos. They munched and crunched, enjoying the quiet, starry night around them. Shaw, in his usual playful mood, looked over at Dwayne with a mischievous grin as he ate a handful of Cheez-Its. Hey, bro, guess what? I'm Nacho brother. He quipped, laughing at his own pun. Dwayne couldn't help but laugh. He reached out and grabbed Shaw, pulling him close in a tight headlock. He began to vigorously rub Shaw's scalp with his knuckles, giving him a playful nudge. All right, I get it. Shaw yelped, laughing and trying to wriggle free from his brother's iron grip. Mercy. Mercy. Dwayne finally released him, ruffling Shaw's thick, wavy, black hair affectionately. That's what you get for saying I'm Nacho brother as a joke. Shaw grinned. Worth it? The brothers settled back into the seats, still snacking. After pouring themselves cups of chocolate milk, they decided to pass the time by playing video games. Shaw pulled out his iPhone and started up the original 1980 Pac-Man. His eyes quickly became glued to the tiny screen. Dwayne watched, leaning back with his chocolate milk, and soon pulled out his own iPhone to play Plants vs. Zombies. Chaos quickly ensued. Gee, get the fruit, Dwayne spluttered, pointing at Shaw's screen. You'll get more points. I'm not going to get the fruit, Shaw replied, eyes locked on the iPhone. Get the fruit. Dwayne insisted. I can't get the fruit. Shaw protested. Get the fruit. Dwayne shouted. I'm not going to get the fruit. There's a ghost right there. Shaw yelled, laughing nervously as the tiny yellow Pac-Man dodged and darted through the maze. Meanwhile, Dwayne's screen was filled with hordes of zombies marching across his roof. He was playing Dr. Zomboss's Revenge. He frantically tapped his plants, trying to keep the undead at bay. Every few seconds, he would glance over at Shaw, who was yelling at the screen while still clutching the chocolate milk. The night stretched on with chaotic, playful energy, fruit chases, dot munching, zombie attacks, spilled snacks, and bursts of laughter. Through it all, 3,000 Cycles, I Missed You, pulsed softly from the radio, blending with the men's laughter and the clicks and taps of their iPhones. The truck glided silently down the starlit countryside highway, and the autopilot kept them safely on course while Dwayne and Shaw reveled in the silly, chaotic fun of the moment. Next, the unthinkable happened. Dwayne was too focused on planting melon pults, and Shaw was too busy fleeing from pixelated ghosts to notice that the truck's autopilot had adjusted itself for the open road. With no other cars in sight and a long, straight stretch ahead, the system gradually increased speed to maintain efficiency. The hum of the engine deepened. The scenery outside began to scroll by a little bit faster. A lone highway patrolman sat parked beneath a billboard advertising beef jerky, sipping burnt gas station coffee and trying to stay awake. His eyes drooped, until a massive white armored truck blasted past him like a comet. He blinked, spluttered, and stared at the taillights shrinking in the distance. What the? He tossed the nasty coffee in the back seat, grabbed the steering wheel, hit the lights, and floored the accelerator. As he got closer, he squinted. The driver's seat and the passenger seat were clearly occupied by two grown men who were not looking at the road, laughing hysterically, holding snacks and drinks, and each staring down at their iPhones. Unbelievable, the patrolman muttered. Texting, speeding, oh no, don't tell me they've been drinking too. He flicked on the siren and called out loud to nobody, pull over. Pull. Over. Now. Inside the truck, all of Dwayne and Shaw's playing and laughing suddenly stopped. Dwayne finally looked up from Plants vs. Zombies. Bro. We've got company. Shaw glanced up too. Oh, dude, we're being chased. By who? A very angry cop. Dwayne scrambled to grab the steering wheel, but Shaw shouted, no, keep it on autopilot. It drives better than you. The patrolman was closing in, until the truck suddenly took a sharp, smooth right turn following the GPS's programmed route. The officer, who was not following any GPS or radar and was instead operating purely on adrenaline, did not turn. Wait, no. His highway patrol car shot past the turn, bounced over a small hill, and sailed off a short drop into the shallow river below with a dramatic splash. Water surged through the open windows as the siren warbled pathetically underwater. Dwayne and Shaw, now half a mile away, blinked at the GPS map. Did he follow us? Shaw asked. No clue, Dwayne answered. Possibly. But I think we lost him. Meanwhile, in the river, the highway patrolman shoved his door open and climbed out of the water, spluttering, dripping with humiliation, and absolutely done with his entire career. I don't get paid enough for this, he muttered as he swam toward the bank with the grace and enthusiasm of an exhausted cat. Chapter 9. After the chaotic police chase and the long stretch of nighttime driving, Dwayne finally switched the truck out of autopilot and slowed to a calm, steady crawl. The road signs began to glow brighter in the headlights as the highway curved toward civilization, small towns, gas stations, and the kind of roadside motels that popped up like lonely islands in the desert. There, Shaw said, pointing through the windshield. Look, a vacancy sign. A neon blue glow shimmered ahead, the Starlit Pines Motor Lodge. A retro-style, two-story motel with a crescent moon logo, a gently flickering vacancy sign, and a row of warmly lit rooms that looked surprisingly clean for a place located in the middle of nowhere. Finally, Dwayne groaned happily. A bed. A real bed. Not a driver's seat, not a booth, not a bathroom stall, an actual bed meant for sleeping. The brothers shared one exhausted laugh. Dwayne pulled into the motel parking lot and gently parked near the front office. The truck rumbled down into silence. The night was still, cool, and carried the faint scent of pine bark and asphalt. Shaw stretched his arms over his head. Man, what a night. Yeah, and what a day, too, Dwayne agreed. Time to end it right. The brothers climbed out of the truck, grabbed their bags and favorite weapons, and headed toward the glowing office door. Dwayne pushed open the office door, and a soft ding announced their arrival. Inside, the front desk was manned by a wiry, middle-aged clerk with fluffy gray hair, enormous round glasses, and a half-finished crossword puzzle spread out in front of him. He looked up, blinking a few times as if the brothers had just materialized out of thin air. Well, hi there, gentlemen, he said in a chipper tone that did not match the late hour. Welcome to the Starlit Pines Motor Lodge. You two look like, He squinted theatrically. Let me guess. Not zombies, not sleepwalkers, I got it. Really, really tired dudes. Dwayne and Shaw exchanged a look that was fitting for, he's not wrong. We'd like a room, Dwayne said, rubbing his eyes, then pushing his glasses up on his nose. Second floor. Something clean, quiet. Preferably with two queen-sized beds. Oh, fancy, the clerk teased as he turned to his computer, typing with one finger at a time. Going for the penthouse experience. The second floor it is. The high life. He winked at Shaw, who barely managed a tired snort. Let me see what we've got open. Oh. Room 204 is free. Nice one, too. Recently deep cleaned. Smells like lavender instead of sadness. That'll do, Shaw said approvingly. You bet it will, the clerk assured, plucking a keycard from a nearby drawer. I'll print out your receipt. Try not to fall asleep while standing up. It happens more than you'd think. Dwayne muttered, no promises. Dwayne accepted the keycard with a thankful nod, and the brothers trudged toward the staircase, their footsteps heavy with exhaustion. The lobby soft lighting faded behind them as they climbed to the second floor, the quiet hallway illuminated only by dim sconces that flickered gently like candlelight. At last, they reached room 204. Shaw slid the keycard into the slot, the lock clicked open with a cheerful beep that felt far too energetic for how tired they were. Inside, the room smelled faintly of lavender, exactly as promised. Two neatly made queen-sized beds sat side by side, the blankets crisp, the pillows perfectly fluffed. A small lamp cast a warm golden glow across the space, and the air conditioner hummed softly in the background. Dropping their snacks and other belongings onto the dresser, the brothers exchanged a final, sleepy grin, one that was fitting for, we actually made it. Without saying another word, Shaw collapsed onto the nearest bed face first, muffling a groan into the pillow, while Dwayne kicked off his boots, turned off the lamp, and fell onto his own bed with a thud. The soft drone of the air conditioner and the distant chirping of night insects outside lulled them deeper into rest. After a long, chaotic, ridiculous, fun Friday filled with chases, car crashes, close calls, snacks, drinks, music, magic tricks, sleepy ASMR, and one very unlucky highway patrolman, the exterminator, and the hunter finally drifted off into peaceful slumber. They were together, content, and at peace. They knew that no matter what challenges the future held, they would face them together as brothers. Their road trip wasn't over, but for tonight, everything was exactly as it should be. The end.